In this tutorial, we will cover creating a UVW map for a simple box using the Unwrap UVW modifier in 3ds Max 2011, saving the UVW template, and then modifying it in Photoshop CS5. The Unwrap UVW modifier allows you to assign mapping coordinates to an object or unwrap and edit existing ones. UVW mapping coordinates determine how bitmaps are projected onto your object. The UVW axes correspond to the XYZ axes of your object. The x-axis is U, the y-axis is V, and the z-axis is W. Basically, UVW mapping allows you to unwrap the polygons that make up a 3D model and display them on a 2D flat surface like a bitmap. This allows you to work with the resulting image file in Photoshop or any other image editing program that you choose to create your textures. Let's open 3ds Max. In the Create panel, Geometry, Standard Primitives, we'll select Box. In the Perspective view, we'll create a box. With the object still selected, let's click on the Modify panel. Under Parameters, we'll change the length, width, and height all to the same number of 20. This is because we are making a crate that needs to be square, but could be any number. In the modifier list, let's select the Unwrap UVW modifier to add it to the stack. Under the Unwrap UVW parameters, click the Edit button. The Edit UVWs window will open. Click the button to select Base Subobject Mode for selection. Now, it's hard to see here, but what we have is all the faces that make up our box stacked on top of each other like a sandwich. Drag a selection box around all the faces. Now let's click on the Mapping menu and select the Flatten Mapping option. The Flatten Mapping window will open. Leave all options set to the defaults and click the OK button. Now we can see that all the faces are laid out next to each other. Click on the Tools menu and select the Render UVW Template option. On the Render UVs window that opens, leave the settings as default and click the Render UV Template button. A render map will open showing the UVW map. It's very hard to see the green matte lines on this window. Let's save this UVW map to an image file. Click the Save Image button. The Save Image window will open. For the Save As type, we will select Ping Image File, star.png. You can use any image type that you prefer, but I like to use Ping image files because they allow for transparency that JPEG does not. Let's enter a name for our file and click the Save button. On the PNG configuration window that opens, click OK. Now that we have our UVW template saved, let's close all but the main 3ds Max window. Now that we have our UVW map set up for the shape, we can merge the Unwrap UVW modifier back into the mesh. When we do this, it'll preserve the coordinate changes we made to the UVW map. Let's right-click on our crate and select Convert to, then Convert to Editable Mesh. Let's open Photoshop. Once it finishes opening, we can open the UVW template we created previously. Let's click the File, then Open. In the Open window, we'll select the UVW template by double-clicking on it. Now we're going to need a texture to apply to the 6 faces, polygons of our crate. You can create one from scratch if you like, or get an image from a Google Images search, which is what I like to do. Let's open a web browser like Internet Explorer. I have my home page set to Google. If you don't have Google as your home page, just enter the address in the URL and hit enter. Now click on the Images link. In the search field, let's enter wooden crate texture and click Search Images. After we find an image we like, let's click on it. This will open the page that the image was found on, along with a full-size copy of the image on top of the page. Right-click on the image and select Copy. Back in Photoshop, let's create a new file to paste the wooden crate image we copied from the web. Click File, New. The new window will open. Let's give it a name of Crate Texture. Now notice that the width and height are both 256. This number is 256 by 256 because the wooden crate image we copied on the web that is still in our clipboard has caused the new image dialog to default to this. Your number may be different if your image is of a different size. Click the OK button. Now we'll press the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-V to paste our image. In Photoshop, let's bring up our cratetexture.png file. You can faintly see the green box outlines. To make the outlines more visible, let's create a new layer, move it to the background, and then paint it black. We'll click on the Create New Layer button. We need to make sure that black is set to the foreground color in Photoshop. If it's not, you can click here to set it accordingly. Let's click on the Paint Bucket tool. And click to paint Layer 1 black. Now we can't see the green UVW map because this black layer is on top of the UVW map layer. To fix this, let's left-click and hold Layer 1, and then drag it down below Layer 0, and release the left mouse button. This makes it a bit easier to see and work with. If your texture needs transparency, then you can just remove this layer before you save it. To create the crate, we're going to have the same image on each face, but the same method will work for applying images to UVW maps that are more complex or that require different images on different areas. Back on the Photoshop Document tab with our wooden crate texture, we'll click on the Layer menu, then click the Duplicate Layer menu option. In the Duplicate Layer window that opens, let's enter Crate Face for the name. Now click the drop-down menu next to Document and select the cratetexture.png option. Click OK. Click on the cratetexture.png document tab. We can see Crate Face has been created. Let's move the new layers to the top of the stack and then click the Select the Move tool. We'll move the image of the crate to the top left corner of the first face. Now we need to scale the size of the crate texture to fit the face. When we do this, we need to ensure that the image completely covers the green outlines of our faces, or it'll show through in the model. With Crate Face still selected, press the Ctrl+T keyboard shortcut to bring up the free Transform tool. Let's adjust the size to completely fill the face. When we have it set to the correct size, we will press the Enter button to confirm the change. Now let's just repeat the process to cover the other 5 faces. When we have completed our texture, we will click on File, then Save As. Because we have added our layers, it will default to saving as the Photoshop PSD format, but we want to save the file as a PNG file. Click the drop-down next to Format and select PNG. Then click the Save button. In the resulting PNG options that opens, leave None selected and click the OK button. Now that we have our crate texture created, let's open back up 3ds Max. Let's click the Material Editor button. This tutorial uses the Compact Material Editor. If you're using the Slate Material Editor, then click the Modes menu and select the Compact Material Editor. With the first slot selected, we'll click the Assign Material to Selection button. Now we need to apply our crate texture to our crate. Let's click the little box next to our diffuse map. In the Material Map Browser window that opens, we'll double-click on Bitmap. In the Select Bitmap Image File window, we'll browse to and select our cratetexture.png file. To be able to see the material, we need to click the Show Standard Map in Viewport button. Close the Material Editor. Now let's press F9 or Shift-Q on our keyboard to render our crate. Thank you for joining me on this tutorial.